United States President Donald Trump has issued a new ultimatum and deadline, this time to India. Trump stated that in 24 hours he will significantly increase tariffs on Indian goods if New Delhi does not start phasing out Russian oil. In response, India urgently sent its national security advisor and foreign minister to Moscow for emergency consultations. The Kremlin called the calls to force India and other countries to stop buying Russian oil actual threats and stated that they do not consider them legitimate, but they did not promise to help India. At the same time, Trump announced that he is launching a hunt for Putin's so-called shadow fleet, which Russia uses to continue trading oil in violation of sanctions. In addition, Trump stated that he would seek a sharp reduction in oil prices in order to completely cut off the flow of money to Russia. In general, the situation is heating up and it's worth figuring it out, which is what we'll do in this episode. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's go through everything step by step. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, leave any comment, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechi News. The link is in the description of this video. So, the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, said that he might quarrel within the next 24 hours to significantly increase tariffs on Indian imports. This statement was made on the evening of August 5 if we speak in Kyiv time. Trump criticized India for excessive trade barriers and economic cooperation with Russia. According to the United States President, India already has the highest tariff among all, but that's still not enough. Here's a quote from Trump. They have the highest tariff among all. We agreed on 25%, but I think that within the next 24 hours I will significantly increase this tariff. Because they buy Russian oil, they are fueling Putin's war machine. Earlier, the American president emphasized that New Delhi doesn't care at all about how many Ukrainians have died because of Russian aggression. Trump imposed new tariffs against India amid new European Union sanctions targeting Russian energy trade. And from now on, India will not be able to sell petroleum products made from Russian oil to Europe. Trump had earlier threatened countries that buy oil from Moscow with 100% secondary tariffs. And now, the Deputy Chief of Staff to the United States President, Stephen Miller, has even accused India of financing the war in Ukraine by buying oil, and he stated that this is unacceptable. As Bloomberg writes, India did not expect such a decision from the United States President to significantly increase tariffs against the country because of its trade with Russia. They were hoping, they say, that everything would continue as it did under Biden, because Biden, as they claim, indulged such trade. Now in Delhi, they're racking their brains over how to minimize the damage. An unnamed Indian official told the publication Bloomberg that Trump's decision on tariffs caught India off guard. According to the Bloomberg source, Trump's language, calling the Indian economy dead, customs barriers unpleasant, and saying that India is indifferent to the deaths of Ukrainians, was very unusual and felt like a verbal slap. The Indian government is preparing for a possible increase in tariffs from the United States and is looking for ways to reduce economic losses. The Indian Ministry of Commerce is discussing how to help exporters, especially from the jewelry, textile and precious stones industries. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is urging people to buy Indian goods to compensate for the decline in demand abroad. The authorities are also counting on behind-the-scenes negotiations to somehow ease the tension. In Delhi, they are now considering the idea of speeding up the launch of the export support program, for which 22.5 billion rupees were allocated in February. According to Bloomberg, the amount may be increased to help companies that are losing out to competitors with lower tariffs by about 15 to 20%. Since the beginning of the year, India has been importing about 1.7 million barrels of Russian oil per day. And all of it comes by sea, and Trump says that this needs to be stopped. And now it is being reported that high-ranking Indian officials will visit Russia amid this escalation. In particular, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Foreign Minister Subrahmanyam Jaishankar will come to Moscow in the coming days to try to figure out how to get out of this situation. One of the options being considered is to use Putin's shadow fleet to try to deceive the West and pass off Russian oil as something else. But here too, Trump is ready to strike. According to the Financial Times, United States authorities are considering imposing sanctions against the shadow fleet. This scenario is being prepared in case the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin does not agree to a truce with Ukraine. Adding new vessels of the Russian Federation's shadow fleet to the sanctions list will be the first instance of the United States imposing sanctions against Moscow since Trump's return to the White House in January. Such sanctions could strengthen the recent European Union restriction against the shadow fleet. Because the European Union already imposed sanctions against more than 100 new vessels last month. In total, the European Union has restricted the operations of 415 vessels of Putin's shadow fleet. Trump plans to make a decision on sanctions against Russia after his special representative Steve Witkoff returns from Moscow. He announced this today. Moreover, even Panama is introducing strict restrictions on the registration of commercial vessels, targeting the very shadow fleet of the Russian Federation, which is used for the illegal transportation of Russian oil to bypass sanctions. As early as this month, Panama will stop registering oil tankers that are more than 15 years old. And this step has a significant impact on global maritime trade because Panama is the second largest registrar of commercial vessels in the world. The new rule will directly affect a significant portion of Russia's shadow fleet. Because the average age of tankers transporting Russian oil reaches 20 to 25 years. Because of this, many of them will not meet the new requirements and Panama will simply abandon them. And that's not all. Earlier, the Maritime Authority of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas announced plans to remove ships owned by Russian companies from its registry, or those involved in trade with Russia and sailing under the Bahamian flag. The Caribbean regulator emphasized that any vessel under the Bahamian flag that comes under sanctions will be removed from the national registry. In addition to this, Trump stated that lowering the price of oil by $10 could force Russia to stop the war. His quote continues, "Putin will stop killing people if we lower energy prices by another $10 per barrel. He will have no choice because his economy is in a dire state." And now, against this backdrop, they're just shrieking about injustice in Moscow. The Kremlin called the calls to force India and other countries to stop buying Russian oil actual threats and stated that they do not consider them legitimate. In particular, Kremlin spokesperson, these talking mustaches, Dmitry Peskov stated that the Kremlin hears many statements that, in his words, are actual threats and attempts, quote, to force certain countries to stop trading with Russia. Peskov emphasized that Moscow does not consider such calls legitimate and is convinced that sovereign states should independently choose their trading partners and forms of economic cooperation that serve their national interests. But, well, Peskov needs to calm down a bit, because Russia is a pariah state and all reasonable civilized countries should have long since stopped having any ties with it at all. It's better not to have any dealings with those unwashed Russians at all. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.